In a battlefield full of armored vehicles and advanced military strategies, there was a technological marvel that made a significant impact on World War II. With a design that combined strength and durability, this tank became a crucial milestone for the Soviet Union in facing the German invasion. In this video, we will discuss the KV-1 tank, a legendary vehicle that became a symbol of power and resilience on the battlefield at that time. The development of the KV tank began in 1938, when the Soviet Union sought a more effective replacement for the T-35 heavy tank. The T-35, known for having multiple guns in one unit, started to show its weaknesses on the modern battlefield. One major issue faced by the T-35 was that the tank commander was often overwhelmed in coordinating the use of the various guns, especially when facing intense enemy attacks. Additionally, despite its very large size and heavy weight, the T-35 was not equipped with sufficiently strong armor to withstand modern anti-tank weapons. Recognizing these weaknesses, the Soviet Union decided to seek a more reliable and effective replacement. In 1938, 3 tank prototypes were submitted to Joseph Stalin as potential replacements for the T-35, the SMK, KV, and T-100. Among these prototypes, the KV tank, which later became known as the KV-1, stood out due to its simpler yet effective design. Unlike the SMK and T-100, the KV had only one gun turret, and this simpler design also allowed the tank to be equipped with thicker armor. When these prototypes were tested in real combat conditions during the Winter War between the Soviet Union and Finland, the KV demonstrated its superiority. With a lighter weight compared to the SMK and T-100 and thicker armor, the KV proved to be highly resistant to Finnish anti-tank weapons. The development of the KV tank eventually entered mass production in December 1939, after undergoing a series of rigorous tests and evaluations in battle. The name KV comes from Kliment Voroshilov, a prominent Soviet government figure who served as the People's Commissar of Defense at the time. Once it was decided to be produced in mass, the KV-1 was quickly adopted for serial production by the Red Army and began replacing tanks that were already considered outdated at that time, such as the T-28 medium tank and the T-35 heavy tank. Although these tanks were once considered advanced, they were no longer able to meet the demands of modern warfare, particularly in terms of protection and firepower. When officially accepted into the Red Army service, the KV-1 was considered the strongest tank in the world based on its combination of firepower and armor thickness. This made it one of the most valuable assets in Soviet armored strength. In terms of specifications, the KV-1 was equipped with a main F-32 gun with a caliber of 76.2 mm. This gun was capable of firing projectiles at a high velocity and effectively against most enemy armored vehicles of the time. In addition to the main gun, the KV-1 also had 2 DT machine guns of 7.62 mm caliber, strategically placed to provide protection against approaching enemy infantry. The thickness of the KV-1's armor was also one of the factors that made it superior to other tanks. The front and sides of the tank were covered with 75 mm thick armor, which could withstand most of the enemy's anti-tank gunfire at the time. The rear was covered with 70 mm thick armor, while the turret was also covered with 75 mm thick armor. The KV-1 was also equipped with a V2K diesel engine capable of producing 600 horsepower. This engine was designed to provide sufficient propulsion for the tank, allowing the KV-1 to reach a maximum speed of up to 28 km/h. When Germany launched Operation Barbarossa on June 22, 1941, about 400 units of the KV-1 had arrived on the battlefield. The presence of these heavy tanks quickly posed a significant challenge to the German army, which was unprepared to face armored vehicles with such strong protection. The KV-1, with its thick armor and powerful armament, became a formidable opponent for the German panzer divisions that were accustomed to facing lighter Soviet tanks like the T-26 or BT-7. One of the most famous examples of the KV-1's resilience occurred during the Battle of Raseiniai, which took place just one day after the German invasion of the Soviet Union began. On June 23, 1941, a KV-1 tank was reported to have managed to halt the advance of the German 6th Panzer Division overnight. The KV-1 was eventually neutralized after an 88 mm anti-tank gun was brought in, and German infantry advanced to throw grenades into the tank's hatches. However, despite the KV-1's proven toughness against German attacks, the tank also had significant weaknesses. One major problem was its very heavy weight, which made it difficult to move quickly and effectively across varied terrain. The tank often struggled to cross bridges, many of which were not designed to support such a weight. Additionally, its weight also caused the KV-1's drivers to frequently experience difficulties in operating the tank, particularly due to heavy controls and unreliable transmission. Although the KV-1 had these weaknesses, the Soviets did not stand idly by. They quickly began working to address these issues in subsequent variants. Although the KV-1 debuted as one of the strongest tanks at the beginning of World War II, it was not destined to remain the greatest tank throughout the entire conflict. With the emergence of the T-34, the role of the KV-1 began to diminish on the battlefield. Over time, the role of the KV-1 reached its peak because the T-34 was available in large numbers and was further supported by the heavier IS-1 and IS-2 tanks, which were upgraded with sturdy armor and a 122mm main gun. The presence of the KV-1 tank also began to be taken seriously by the German Wehrmacht. To address this threat, Germany introduced the Tiger tank, which was highly effective in penetrating thick armor. The presence of the Tiger tank quickly rendered the KV tank outdated. During a brief battle near Leningrad, 3 Tiger tanks easily destroyed 10 KV-1's tanks without losing a single tank. Overall, from 1939 to 1945, a total of 5,219 KV-1 units were produced in various variants.